What's going on, everybody? Bobby Fi here with Jake Rody, Rody51, and we should have Sheets, but he's having a little technical issues getting in here. So he's asking me to send him an invite. I don't know how to do all these things at once, so I'm gonna have a little bit of a hard time. Brandon, if you can help get this figured out on the back end, I really appreciate it.
I'll send him an invite on Discord right now.
Yeah, he's not gonna see it on Discord. I'm guessing he's got like 7,000 messages always open on Discord. But
I'll just put it in the admin channel.
Okay. I just let me Brandon, if you could figure it out and text it to Sheets or email it to Sheets, whatever, that would be great. Anyway, guys, it's an exciting start already. We're already having a little bit of technical difficulties getting Sheets in. We've got Tyreek Hill, who's arrested, but apparently still going to play. There's lots of back and forth speculation about Jamar Chase. So I can't get too many messages. I can't deal with it all. All right, we're gonna start talking, and we're probably gonna go by position, talk about some stacks. I think before we get into anything, Rody, is there like an overall like obvious game for you? Because I think there's a couple for me, but is there a game that you're much heavier on than others?
Yeah, I mean the obvious game is probably Houston and Indy. That's my favorite one. Then the next one's probably Jacksonville, Miami. Those two are pretty much the games to go to, I think, in my opinion is,
Yeah, and Tyreek, whether Tyreek plays, obviously is a big deal for all of us, but especially if you're stacking those games.
Yeah,
I don't know how you guys are. Guys, I'm trying to host the show. It's going to be really hard to respond to all these texts. So I'm having a hard time with it. But anyway, we appreciate all you guys joining us. We're going to go through everything. Hopefully Sheets will be joining here in a minute. He's stuck on the joining channel. It just says joining, and it's going through stream through things. Rody, why don't you start talking a little bit about those games and why you like them, and I'm going to try and get this invite over to Sheets.
Yeah, if he goes and just clicks that link I put in the admin channel, it takes me right. I can join again. It lets me join.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's any chance he's going to look.
So just maybe share that link to his text.
I'm just emailing it to him right now.
Or email on that link. Yeah, there you go.
But
I'll talk about some games. Obviously I'm wearing a Chargers shirt today. Justin Herbert's $5,800. Lamb McConkey's one of my favorite players at 4,700. There you guys go. There's my spiel about the Chargers, but they're still an elite team. I think he's going to be a good player. You got Palmer there at 5,200. You also got, you got J.K. Dobbins at 4,900. I think if he emerges as a good running back, he says he's ready to go this year. So I mean, their offense, they're going to run the ball a little bit more. I know Gus is there too, but I think they're going to be more elite than you think. It's still an elite quarterback. We never paid less than 6,000, 7,000 for Herbert, so 5,800 is a steal. Pretty much a lot of these games are interesting today. Atlanta's going to be chalky too, like Bijan and Drake London at 6K today, very cheap. Kyle Pitts is only 4,600. They got a quarterback in Kirk Cousins is going to sling it, and they're finally going to get some real yards, I think, this year, and that looks like a good game to target. Cincinnati chalk we got. We don't know about Chase. He says he's even if he plays, he's only limited. He's limited. So and they're not getting a deal done today. So I mean, he might just play like ass. I don't know. So
well, we've got Sheets in here. That's great. I'm glad you made it in. Sorry about the technical stuff. I don't know what happened there.
I have no idea.
So we'll try and figure that out on the back end before the next time. Obviously, sorry for the frustration. Sheets, how you doing this morning?
Good.
Yeah. Any big takes that you want to jump into before we start talking about stacks and then positions and all that stuff?
No, I guess I overheard Rody talking about the Bengals stuff when I just hopped in here.
Yeah.
Clearly how much or how little you play of the Bengals 3K guy is going to, it's going to be a big decision. Did you have any? I heard at the very, very end. You're saying something about Chase or whatever it is. So did you talk about EOCvis or anything like that yet? Or
no, we haven't really talked about it. We just said Chase was kind of he didn't get a deal done. He said he was going to be limited anyways, a participant to play today. So that we don't know what it means. He might not even play. So there's still that out there too. So.
Oh, I didn't even realize
he's going to be very low owned as a result. So I don't mind just in the lottery. I'm going to have 15% of them.
Yeah, I'm taking a couple shots on him as well. As well. So
there's also the Burrow. They go back to college days. This is this sort of like not an FU to the team in general, but hey, why aren't we paying this guy who we're going to pay anyway? Let's go back. Let's go out and score it. Let's get 3 touchdowns for him or something like that. I could see that happening. The Isavic, I think that it's. I mean, that's what we can talk about positions and stuff, but I think it is a good starting point because I think that these ownership. I think he's going to end up like higher owned than these projections than he's projected. Probably going to be closer to 40% in a lot of tournaments. And I just think there's a lot of other builds where you really just don't need to do it. There's a lot of cheap quarterbacks. There's a lot of other options, but it is kind of like, okay, it's like, and there's other pivots you could play in the similar range. I mean, Dunze has 1,000 more. You've got McMillan in the later games for Tampa, who's 3,200, 3,300. I think that's an interesting pivot. But I think the general thing is I'd like to be underweight on him in general. Although, again, that still probably means 20+% of them for me.
Yeah, you didn't even mention the best pivot for Andre. Mitchell. Did you say Mitchell from the Colts? 3,800
from the Colts, but we can talk about that for a second if you want to. I didn't think about that one as much, but yeah.
What's his name? Adonai Mitchell. No Josh Downs today at 3,800. That game looks like to be a big shootout game, and he's 3,800 and kind of another cheap guy you can get in.
Yep. Mitchell and McMillan are two. Actually, I had 5% of Mitchell, but I'll probably end up a little bit higher than that.
Yeah.
And I have a very clear like what I want to do today in terms of stacks for the most part, but there's also a lot of really good options that you could sort of play those stacks without necessarily even playing the quarterback. Obviously, like everybody else, I like the Indianapolis game. I do think it's interesting that we're not getting the ownership on Stroud because it's hard to know who to pair him with and because of the price. And I'll just take the overweight stance on that very easily. Even with Richardson being popular, I'm going to be overweight that. I just think it's a great game to try to target. And I don't know what's happening here. I like the over in this game. I like this game as a shootout, but I'm going to be very, very heavy on Jaden Daniels. You can see my current exposure there, 23%. He's my highest owned quarterback in the lottery. And he's going to be, just below Richardson in the other stuff. And Baker, I think, is a great option on the other side of that game. So those are the main games I'm stacking. And the other, you mentioned the skinny or the stack for maybe a little bit of payback from the 60-13 game they lost last year, the Chargers in Vegas. Maybe you do get the Herbert big game. I love Josh Palmer, so I don't mind that take from Rody.
Looks like that total came up by a point too.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got the big Jacksonville Miami game, which is another one where I'll have probably 15% of my lineups dedicated to. But I want to make sure to get in at least 10% of Justin Fields stacks. I think this ownership is too low for him at 5K. This could easily end up being like the highest scoring quarterback, and it's not that big of a reach. We saw it happen a number of times. They're playing on turf against Atlanta. We still don't know. There should be better on defense. They should be better overall. But this game could easily shoot out more than I usually think for a Pittsburgh game. So I'm into Fields, and I didn't get Caleb Williams in my scripting, but I'm probably going to have to force in some Caleb Williams. That's basically what I'm doing for my stacks. Sheets, what games are you sort of looking at? I
don't know yet. I wanted to ask you about all this stuff. I got plenty of time, obviously, and I want to figure out whether I want to, first of all, do a max exposure setting to see if I want to limit Eusebius in my builds. I don't, again, I'm not really a big fan of manually doing that, but if I don't do that, I'm going to end up with just a ridiculous amount of him. The only way I don't get that much of him, if I started, I was messing around with this. If I started going like more min uniques, like min uniques 3, min uniques 4, whatever, then I can get down to maybe 50. But aside from that, I mean, you're playing a lot of him. Mm-hmm. The other question I guess I had when we were talking about stacks is what does that mean nowadays? We talked about this a little bit the other day. I mean, when I first started playing DFS, it was kind of like the general rule is you wanted to play a quarterback and receiver and a run back on the other side. Okay. And then it became a little more aggressive, and they wanted you to play two, a quarterback with 2 receivers and one on the other side. And weirdly, with all the Sims stuff that came out last year, one of the takeaways from that is people were learning that the need for a run back is not as big of a deal as maybe people originally thought. I mean, it makes sense, like intuitively, right? that if you want a bunch of guys to go off, you're going to need someone to go off from the other side. But the math just didn't really bear that out, Mm-hmm. So, and the other thing that we talked about a little bit the other day in the last couple of weeks is that the other kind of revelation is that playing 3 receivers from one team also is viable. So when I go through my Saber sim and I play 150 lineups in the lottery or whatever, I'm thinking about what types of things to kind of X out, of
Mhm.
those pools, and the amount of things I'm Xing out is much less than it was because
Mhm.
there's a lot of other things. I'm still not. I don't have it in me to do what you'd like to do sometimes, Bobby. I can't. I don't think I could do like QB0. I don't have that in me. I know it's won before.
I would say that I'm the person who does that like the least of anybody. So I don't know. I never do that.
I thought you when you play the running quarterback, but you have like run backs from the other team in the receivers positions or something like that.
Well, what I do is often in that situation, I usually like to pair them either with a cheap tight end or with a receiver,
Okay.
and then maybe run back with 2 or 3 even on the other side.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm even doing that today with Jaden Daniels. Playing him with McLaurin, and then you put 3 guys from Tampa Bay on the other side. I think that's something I'm looking at a little bit more. But I also well, I thought that point you were making was good. That I do think that SaberSim even is trying from the beginning was had a lot more of the 1-0s and the 1-1s with no run back and the 1-2s with no run back, the quarterback with two and no run back than I've seen, and I'm more okay with that as we've sort of developed, especially early in the year when there's just a lot of sort of funky prices that I can see why it would make sense to get there. That even if the game stack correlation makes some difference and you want the game that's 38-35. At the same time, like there's really not that many games that you expect that to be the case on this slate. So I don't mind it very much, at least for this specific slate, ending up with some 1-1s with no run back, 1-2s with quarterback with no run back, quarterback +2 with no run back. I don't think I would go quarterback +3 with no run back very much, but maybe there'll be some slates where that is a viable option, just not this one for me. Okay. Brody, what do you stand on that in terms of the game stacking nowadays?
Yeah, so I'm learning how to using SaberSim more now. So I've been taking some tips from other I watched some Jordan videos from SaberSim.
Yep.
And just the stacks that he's picking, and I was getting a lot of QB +1, QB +2 with no run back, so I'm getting a lot of that. I'm doing just a generic build with no setting stack changes now and see what I get. But I do always like the QB2 +1 or the QB2 +2 builds. I mean, I always built like that, but I don't think you do have to anymore. I'm gonna keep the QB +1s and the QB +2s, no run backs. So in my build, and then I never usually do the quarterback with no stacks like what Sheets was talking about. Just play a quarterback with no pass options either. I don't usually do that. Like Justin Fields at 5K with no correlation.
Right. We don't have like so for example, I would have actually considered Richardson for that type of role today.
Or Richardson, yeah.
But you don't necessarily need to because Granson you don't have that many cheap tight ends, and Granson's 2,900 and shows up as one of the better values. If I'm going to do it, I may as well just use my Granson lineups with him there. You know what I mean? And then I can run back whatever I want from the Houston side, which also will be lower owned than I don't want to say should be, but lower owned than you think it'd be.
Yeah, but some of those games we know where they're going. We know the ball's going to Pittman, Mitchell, or Granson. Really, I mean, it's pretty condensed on that side of the ball. Same with Fields. It's going to go to Pickens or Freiermuth. Really, that's their best options.
Right.
So where the ball's going. So it's kind of hard to fade those guys in a stack. But SaberSim did out of 150 build, generic build, gave me QB +3, 18%. So 28 lineups of 150 would be QB.
And that's for the lottery setting?
Yeah, I didn't run the Sims. This is just general.
Okay.
I can run the Sims. I'll run the Sims and tell you in a minute.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I forgot I redid my whole build, and that was just optimal SaberSim build that I got with not adjusting any stacks. But I will adjust the stacks to the ones I just mentioned, even QB +1 with 2 run back and QB1 with 1 run back. I'm going to add those stacks as my main stacks today, I think.
Couple of other comments on the slate before we get going. Is that again same comment I make on all sports, but again, for those of you starting with football for the first time, there's you can play a billion different slates, but the main slate we're talking about, the big 12 game whatever it is, it's 2 distinct portions to it. You have these 1 o'clock games, and you have these 4 o'clock games, and there is a window in between where you can late swap. Now Bobby's and I'm going to try to make this as well. Is going to go at 3 p.m. to talk about different strategies given what information has already been processed through the 1 o'clock window to change your late games. And as I think about that, as the sports start up again, I wonder if and to what degree you should be trying to lean towards those 4 o'clock games at the beginning, so that you have some possible flexibility as you get there. I experimented not in football, but like with basketball, for example, in actually literally upping the projection by like a half a point or something like that, like on all the players, or like the whole game total or something like that, just to kind of trick the optimizers to like get me a little bit more of it. I don't know if you want to do that. I'm not sure. Maybe you should, but it's just something to keep in mind. And the other overall slate thing I'll point out, and I'll let you guys comment on both those things, is that in a more egregious example, FanDuel, if you play that main slate, they have the night game in their thing. So and to that point, I am going to be playing a bunch of Rams in the FanDuel piece. So what are your thoughts on late swap, late games, anything on specific to FanDuel, anything that I just kind of mentioned?
I love the idea of what you said in general, whether you up the game total, whether you up the individuals by a half of whatever way that you're going to get more of it. I think it makes sense. Just on a random slate. Today, I like it. I like doing something even more. I don't have to worry about it myself because about half of my ownership is on the afternoon games already, which is going to be more than the field. Like I mentioned, I love the Washington Tampa Bay, but it'll also give me the flexibility to swap over to some Seattle where maybe it wants me to get different. You know what I mean? I really want to try to utilize this late swapping to its full effect. And I think that, and then you also have the Chargers side, which I wouldn't mind getting to, maybe where I have a few running backs who only have 12 fantasy points at 5,300 in the first slate. Chuba Hubbard seems like he's going to probably be in somewhere in that range, for example. So I really like doing it, and especially on FanDuel, I think it makes more sense today because I believe that's still the biggest total on the slate is the Rams in Detroit. And Cooper Kupp's price is egregiously low. He's my favorite. Like, he's not on the DraftKings slate, but he's my highest owned receiver. He will be my highest owned receiver, at least in terms of dollar amount allocated on FanDuel by far. I love Kupp this year in general anyway, but I think that you want to have exposure to those games, and it gives you a giant late swapping advantage. So I really do think that's a big thing that I want to really focus on more this year. Rody, what do you think about it? About some of the things she's talked about, and specifically the late swapping?
Yeah, late swaps. Fine. I think some of these afternoon games are going to come in a lot lower too. So like you said, you're definitely above the field in the Washington, even that Dallas Cleveland game, I don't really have much interest, but it's actually looking to be a fast pace supposedly. And there's a lot of different game level factors on that. I don't know. It's weird, but I do like the Chargers a lot and have some Raiders in there. I like, the Bucks a little bit. So yeah, definitely there's some options. Kenneth Walker's later. So you do have some options there to pivot to if you need to. Definitely look to late swap. And then on FanDuel, that Rams game is really good. So Sheets will be all in on that. So
I love it when the Michigan.
I didn't say that. I didn't say I'm going to be all in on that.
No, I mean,
I'm going to have some.
Yeah, not all in on that, but like be in on that game and on the FanDuel.
Yeah. The other thing, what else am I going to ask you? Yeah. So let's talk about other stuff. So again, as some people start to transition more from optimizers to sims or from regular hand building to optimizers, and as you guys in kind of different speeds are starting to migrate a little bit more, whatever it is. Let's talk about like rules and things like that. For example, like stuff that stuff that we used to think about, like running backs and defenses, those correlate. Now, again, if you run these through the sims, allegedly it just kind of does it for you, right? But if you were going to play optimizers or hand build, some big buy-in stuff, do you still like that approach? Like running back, defense, tight end. I don't know what else is kind of considered nowadays, but any like are you still going to build rules like along the way, or are you like? I know you guys aren't, but I'm like in full, just like let it roll thing. Yeah. But to what extent are you guys gonna both like gonna continue to import your own kind of like game scripting thoughts on your builds and stuff?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't think like in terms of running backs pairing with defenses, I do find that when I hand build, I'm generally not getting to a QB with I'm not having very many without a run back. That's just what I'm doing. Again, I'm going to see how it plays out through the season. I think there's always everything's always new every year, and you've got the weird new kickoff rule, and we might again both games hit the over so far, or actually no, the other one hit a push, but the first game. But I do think you might see a little bit more scoring, and I don't think you necessarily have to have the running backs for the defenses. I don't think you necessarily have to. But the one thing I find from when I'm hand building is that I generally am looking for a run back. And because I'm playing a number of lineups, if I'm going to play some Chris Godwin anyway, it just makes more sense to me, just logically, that I would play him with a Washington stack on the other side. You know what I mean? Or in my Washington stacks on the other side. If I'm going to play, whether it's Terry McLaurin, or even I actually have a little bit of Brian Robinson, by the way. But I would want to do that in my Tampa Bay stacks. That's just what I'm finding that I just am still gravitating towards. I'm not saying it's right. And it is the way that I feel the most comfortable building, at least to start the season. But I'm not saying it won't change by week 2. And also with so much action in the afternoon games, a lot of my takes, as Sheets always says in the baseball, my lineups are going to look completely different than what they look like right now. You know what I mean? Just because of the late swapping.
So I've already been very, very successful. I was trying to see how long we could talk about concepts and stuff without talking about a player, which is kind of what I wanted to do to kind of get started here. So it's I've been kind of, I don't want to say glib about this. I just guess glib is the right way. When I've been doing my baseball, remember baseball? That was a sport that existed a day ago. I don't know if you're aware of that, but
Dude, I better put a lineup in.
But they I would distinguish quite vividly between what the good plays are and who I'm actually playing. Football is closer. You know what I mean? Football, the good plays are usually who you're going to play. Not all the time, and not not to the extent that some of them are owned, but you do sort of want to play the good plays. So like for running back, you want to just go into the positions a little bit?
Yeah. Let's get
So for me, running back, the 3 best plays are Rashad White, Bijan Robinson, and Alvin Kamara. Okay. Those are the 3 best plays. If you're going to play cash, if you're going to just kind of gauge on what the best plays are, I think that all 3 of those look pretty good. You could hustle and argue, I guess, about which of the 3, but I find it difficult to believe that I'm going to have lineups without one of them. You know what I mean? I don't know. I haven't done this screen yet, but I'll bet you that even though I'm playing 150 and then other slates, I bet you every lineup's got at least one of them. To fade all 3 is just tough. But I don't know. Maybe I will get to some of them, but I kind of doubt it, because even though it's not as egregious as it used to be, running back is still a pretty freaking consistent performing position.
The only problem with it is we have the same issue with Kamara, for example, every season. We talk about this, and it's almost like it gets old. People are just forgetting about the fact that Taysom Hill is probably going to get a couple of those goal line looks. You know what I mean? And I just feel like that, to me, feels like, oh, look, there's plenty of upside there. The play is fine. I have some of it. And overall, now I'm at 12% Kamara. So I'll be half the field. I'm not ignoring him, but I'd like to get away from some of these chalky ones. The one I'm going to eat the chalk and be way over on is Rashad White, but that's largely due to because I have so many Washington stacks and I'm playing him separately. I think he's a good play, and then he's going to get the work. I don't trust Washington's defense, so I like the idea of that game sort of getting a little wild, and I want it to be overweight White. In terms of Hubbard, I'm underweight. Walker, I'm overweight. Bijan with the field. Why is Jerome Ford showing up so high? Oh, I guess that's for value. I got 5% Jerome Ford. I'm looking at let me just get to my exposures. Jonathan Taylor is one I'm going to be. I have 20+% of that I don't think that is going to be quite as owned as he should. Again, I love that game. James Cook, 20%. This is what I'm getting from fading some Kamara, and then I've got ATN at 12%, HN at 10%, and I also have 8% of Mostert. I do think that it's not impossible for us to play these guys, and people are going to be afraid of doing it because it seems like unknown, and you're going to get no ownership on Mostert at all. This guy led the league in touchdowns last year. I'm not sure if anybody remembers that. He is still the starting running back. I think that's a really good way to get different and get off of some of these other chalky things.
Meanwhile, it's pretty funny as I open up my big mouth about I'm probably going to have very little without one of them. I'm just kind of screening down my lineups, and it got me all the way to lineup 3. You know what I mean? Before I found the first one with has the A-Chain Walker combination. So. Those guys are right below. You know what I mean? Walker and Hubbard. Well, look at this one. I got your old friend in some of these Rhodey. I got some Aaron Jones lurking.
Built the lineup with Aaron Jones. Yeah.
Aaron Jones looks like he's going to be less than 10% owned.
Yeah. Sims like I don't like him that much. I got 6%.
Yeah,
I'm not getting a lot of H-Chan when I run the Millie Sims right now, so I don't know.
6%. All you need is one. You know, like
Yeah.
No, fair enough.
Getting a lot of Kamara though. Kamara's heavy. Yeah.
I think I'll take a stronger, like my big overweight take is the white thing this week, and I'm curious what you're doing, Brody. But like,
which one, Rashad or Zamir?
Oh man,
Rashad.
I like Zamir actually a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
The Chargers game, I like the little bit of run back. He's cheap, going to get workload too, and they like to run the ball there. So
yeah, and I've heard a lot of other people out there talking about, fade Rashad White at chalk. I just can't when I'm playing that game every which way, and I believe that's to me, in my mind, the second most likely game to just go completely wild that's on the main slate. So Brody, what do you have as far as running backs go? I know you're still building and stuff, but what do you like the most?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't mention Joe Mixon. I really like him in the Houston game as well. I got like Sheets talked a little about I like to do receiver RB, like RB receiver type build. So I got some Mixon and Mitchell in that game or Pittman or whatever. But like I like that kind of combination. So I like Zamir and McConkey, like Jonathan Taylor you mentioned, where I really like as well. I think I might have him in my main 4K buy-in. So. I'm probably going to do that Houston stack with Stroud instead of Richardson and run it back with Taylor, I think. I like that a lot. Yeah, pretty much everybody you guys mentioned that I like. A lot of Bijan I'm getting. White's a tough one. I might be at the field or probably right at the field.
Yeah.
Chase Brown's a sleeper, I think. I know everyone talks about Moss. Some people aren't believers in that, but, if they don't have a lot of weapons today, if, people are out, maybe Brown's a fast, speedy guy, pass catching guy. Maybe they slot him out a little bit and extra looks or something. 5K.
Yeah, I did go out of my way to play Brown in one of my higher buy-ins, and I also went out of my way to play J.K. Dobbins as another one.
Yeah, I got Dobbins. I didn't mention I got Dobbins a little bit.
But
the Sims are getting some of
I
these
think
guys.
Dobbins suits more the style because we're used to Herbert's always had the pass catching back in Eckler. I think Dobbins will suit the style more. Maybe he's not going to get the goal line touches, but he gives you a better chance to break one and could end up catching 6 balls for 60 yards and then maybe a touchdown as well. Like I think there's some upside for him. Let's move over to receiver. I'll just go real quick first what I'm sort of doing versus the field. As I mentioned, I'll be a little bit underweight. Isavich. I personally think that like this is going to be higher the ownership than is being projected. I just think that I've heard too much talk about it. He's too cheap. The projection's too good. I think people and the speculation on Chase is going to make him even higher owned in my opinion. So Yusevich, again, I'll be underweight, but that doesn't mean I have, I'm still going to have 20-ish% of them. The one I'm by far the most overweight on at receiver, not even close, is Terry McLaurin. I guess not overweight, but I'm almost 3 times. I have him like 40%. I think he's it's totally mispriced. I love Richards. I love that stack. I almost said Richardson. I always do that with Richardson and Daniels this week. But I love Terry McLaurin. I have a ton of Tyreek Hill, so the fact that he's in handcuffs was a little nerve-wracking to me, and I have to rebuild everything. But it looks like he's going to play, and I am totally fine with just leaving that in there. My other highest owned wide receivers, and just going versus the field, I'll be above the field on Godwin, below the field on London, below the field on Neighbors. I'll be below the field on Waddle. I'm basically below on all these guys. Above the field on Kirk, above on McLaurin, above on Pittman, above on Olave, above on Deontay Johnson. So I just would overweight the slightly lower end tier, above Mike Evans, above Josh Palmer, above Jamar Chase, and below CeeDee Lamb, above Adunze. Oh, it's changing right now though. So anyway, that's sort of my outlook for receiver today. But it's going to. Oh, and one I didn't mention is George Pickens. I have a ton of, and actually Saberson was trying to give me all kinds of Pickens all week. So I'm totally happy to have my Pickens with I can't even think of who's playing so many games out here. Pickens with my guy from Pittsburgh, Justin Fields. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing at receiver. What about you, Rody? And then we'll go to Sheets at receiver.
Yeah, receiver, I like a lot of those guys. I'm still stacking the Houston games. You got Pittman, you got Mitchell, Drake London's cheap at 6K. Nico, I really like at 7K. Tank Dell at 5,800. Christian Kirk, I'm getting a lot of 5,500. Land McConkey's popping pretty heavy for me at low ownership, 4,700. I really like him today a lot. Let's see.
Who was the 4,700 you said you liked a lot just now?
Land McConkey's 4,700. Really like him.
Ooh, okay.
He's projecting really well for me. George Pickens at 5,700. I like him. We did get confirmation that Justin Fields is starting per the team.
Yep.
So he's 5K, if you want to pair him with Pickens or something. Yeah, and I'm just getting a lot of the main guys in my stacks. Evans is there, a little more expensive guy. Well, you got Godwin at 5,800 fits in. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. at 7,200. I do like Arizona side a little bit over the Buffalo side. But, I mean, Buffalo, you got a couple cheap guys. Khalil Shakir at 5,100 he is. Don't mind him. And then, just in your stacks a little bit, whatever you get. Terry McLaurin's only 5,600. A lot. This 5K range is really, really deep today. So I really like that range. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm starting, the more I look at this slate, I'm starting to lose my mind a little bit, because are we just nuts for not just playing Fields like at least in 25% of our lineups? Like if he was 7K and the Bears were playing there last year, Fields would be like the most popular quarterback on the slate. Maybe he will be by the time everybody reruns everything, but I don't understand it. Like it's 5K Fields. If he's really going to be 5%, I might have to change and just almost make Richardson, have like a 4-man pool, because I want to play Richardson still. I want to play Daniels, but I think Fields is like maybe just being way overslept on here. I know it's Pittsburgh, but I don't know, man. I gotta think about this one. Sheets, what do you got at receiver in terms of what you're doing? I know you're still trying to figure it out, but
no, I mean Tyreek Hill's the best play. And I'm gonna have a bunch of that. Remember, I mean this Miami team is. I mean that offense is no joke. Okay, and they were forget that one game they had against Denver or whatever. They were just blasting people. And remember that towards the end of the season they had issues because Tua just kept getting concussions and weren't even sure if he was ever going to play again. Much less coming back to play. You know what I mean? So they actually sort of limped into the end of the season. Sort of. You know what I mean? They were not in full gear. And now you get a whole season off and whatever. This team could come out and freaking just blast people. So listen, it's always very difficult to get these guys in because they're expensive. But
yeah,
I like Tyreek Hill. I like I actually don't have an insignificant amount of Waddle either. Yeah. And then pretty much like I said, the normal guys we talked about is Cevius, probably too much already. But okay, so the devil's advocate thing against Cevius, among other things, is that the game script is not great. They're an 8.5-point favorite in a game that could be kind of boring. I think. Not to mention the only thing that's really good about New England is their ability to defend the pass.
Yep. One of the best. You could argue like they're one of the best 3 in football.
They got that one quarterback, and God forbid they decide to throw him on freaking Eusebius instead. I mean, that's over, for him, So, and when you can combine all those things plus high ownership, it's a tough guy to have 70% of if you ask me.
I'll throw it out there too. The Bengals have been the worst starting team in football since Burrow got there to start the season, and then they always turn into being really good.
Yeah, I think that's like actually an argument to play him. You know what I mean?
No, you could argue that it's going to be different or whatever, but look, we see these things happen a lot of the time. And there is reason for it. They play themselves into the season. It happens sometimes. So I think they're going to win this game. I think they should win this game handily.
Well, and the other play I will emphasize that you kind of touched on is I mean the natural thing you could do if you don't want to play 70% worth of Andreas Cevius is play freaking Jamar Chase. You know what I mean? Just like
right. Yeah,
like, okay. Getting a lot of Chase too. I mean, I'm still getting
say he's going to be limited. Okay.
I'm worried about the limited though.
But okay, whatever. So that's fine. So Chase is he has no T Higgins. It's him and all these freaking rookies out there. He's like, all right, I'm signing or I'm not signing. You got to throw me the ball 20 times. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's not
when you have one of your best friends and your college quarterback as your quarterback. I think you're going to get the ball.
You know what I mean? Hey, dude, listen, I'm limited. Just get me 3 touchdowns before I'm out of the game. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm not against that at all. Other receivers, I go to the normal guys. Drake London, 25-30% of that. DK Metcalf, don't forget how good he is. And I actually have a pretty decent amount of Seattle in general. So he's going to show up there. what other receivers did you? I mean, obviously, I would imagine it was implied that if you like the Colts game, you're going to have Michael Pittman. So I got with the field, I guess, on that. And those are the main guys. And then listen, you could play these Godwins, always these Jacksonville stacks. You could play what's his name, Kirk, whatever, and you could also play that other guy, that $4,700 guy, the Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Brian Thomas Jr. from the
yeah. So there are dudes, and your Pickens thing is good.
Mm-hmm.
Now we also haven't touched on prop. Well, okay, they're not the two best receivers. You could argue the two best receivers, but not really. I mean, CeeDee Lamb. I mean, okay, very, very difficult matchup to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but he's a similar price to Hill. He's got just as much upside. Okay, no one's got Hill upside. Okay, but
I think Lamb has as much upside. I would agree with that.
When Lamb gets it going, like he can get 200 yards just as easily as anybody else. Okay.
Yep.
And if they make the mistake of not playing him, I see 10% projected ownership, whatever. And then the other guy, and listen, you talk about this game a bunch, but forgive me, but didn't Tank Dell just blow the cover off like every single game he played last year? So
Tank Dell is definitely my favorite receiver in that game.
Yeah,
Dell. I love Collins too, but I love Tank Dell. I'm with you. And also Stroud's best friend. When Stroud made his all NFL team, he picked him as a receiver. Okay,
listen, he's got options, obviously, but as far as just like ceiling and stuff like that, I like that. And the other guy. And you already mentioned McConkey, right? He shows up as a value play for me too. Not that. I mean, like 10%. I mean, compared to 5% ownership, that looks good to me. But the other guy, if you want to argue, is the best receiver in the league. You're getting Justin Jefferson at 10%. So there are guys. You don't have to play all the Tyreek Hill. All the guys I just mentioned, like CeeDee Lamb and the guy I literally just mentioned, Justin Jefferson, they can put up, 203, you know what I mean? Like not just as easily, but at half the ownership minimum of Hill, or maybe a third, maybe Hill goes off 30%. It's possible, right? So I think you should have some of all of those guys in as well in your portfolio.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. We can jump over to tight ends. I guess we keep going down in the order of which it's appearing for me. So I'll just say who I've, look, a lot of people I've heard, people just hate Kyle Pitts and they say all these things. It's been kind of a weird situation for him, not to say the least, for the last few years. I'm getting into a lot of Granson just because I'm playing that game so much. I'm getting to a lot of Pitts. I don't care about the ownership particularly. It's not like high enough to where I think I need to just jump off. I mean, it's close, but I'm be below the field probably, but I still have 15%. I'm a little lower on Ingram than the field. I'm a little higher on Kincaid than the field with my hand builds. This is showing my lottery exposure. Taysom Hill, Dalton Schultz is one that I'm going to be overweight on. I don't have him much on the lottery, but again, he'll be in some of my hand builds because I do think he's getting forgotten about a little bit. And I think they're just looking at the receivers for Houston. All just feels like a little underowned. So I'm happy to be overweight and be right in some lineups and be wrong in some other ones. But those are sort of the main guys for me. I do have a couple double tight end lineups, but not as much as I thought I was going to get to. I should mention Trey McBride also. And I did mention Kincaid. Yeah, those are the other two that I probably could use a little bit more of. Brody, what are you doing at tight end?
Well, I mean, you got we didn't mention, but there is a 3K guy for Cincy there at tight end, Mike Gesicki.
Yep, that's true.
Right. Like he's not the young receiver that she's talking about, but he's there. You got Kyle Granson, 2,900. Kyle Pitts, I love at 4,600. You got Kincaid at 5,800. Evan Ingram's 5,500. McBride feels really overpriced at 61. I feel. Schultz I like at 49 a little bit for that Houston. Just some of the guys I like, and Brock Bowers there. I got him in a little bit. Herbert run back a little bit. I mean, he's a talented guy. If you watched him in college, I like him. Looks like Sabersim isn't giving me any of him really in my 150 build.
Yeah, he's not projecting the right way, but I feel like there's an upside for him. That they leave the middle of the field open to the Chargers do, and we just don't know, right?
A lot of unknowns. So I feel like I need to go tweak my 150 build a lot here to get some a little bit more exposure. I'm not getting what I'm running the sims. I'm doing all these. I don't know. Maybe up my min uniques here in a minute and see what I get. But tight end's kind of a crapshoot today. There ain't no high end guys really that we want. I'm getting a lot of the Carolina tight end in my builds, the Sanders, which I did like him early in best ball draft wise. So I'm getting a little bit of him. He's looks like to be the number 1 guy there now, Sanders. I'm only about 13%, but that's still pretty heavy, I think. He's my 3rd tight end ownership. Then the rest of it spread out.
Am I overrating this Granson thing? Am I the only person who's doing this?
I'm getting really low into the Sims. I might up him a little bit. I don't know.
I'm going to take a little bit more of him out because I'm a little nervous.
You
I
got
know
too much of him?
What? I have like 20+% of him. He's my highest owned tight end right now. But I did a lot of double spending up at wide receiver, and I spent up at running back, so there's a reason why he's my highest owned. But I think I can mix in some of the guys you mentioned. Gesicki as an option. I think I can get to some of that. Sanders, I like that idea. So that's probably what
Sanders only 2,500.
Yeah, that's the other one that I can go with. Sheets, what are you looking at tight end?
I mean, you kind of all touched on all of them. The top ones I'm getting right now are Ingram, Pitts, just Gesicki actually. Kincaid. I don't know if you mentioned him, but
yeah, he's one of the best.
Jake Ferguson. Like those are the guys I'm over 10% of, and then he's expensive for sure, but maybe not the slate, but Trey McBride's legit. I don't know if this is the time to play him or whatever when you have these kind of cheaper guys, whatever. But Trey McBride is very, very good. Everybody else you just kind of mentioned, and Joku's always in play for something. So tight end, if they end up as part of my stacks, I'm getting them, and so that's why I'm getting Ingram. That's why I'm getting Pitts. And this is interesting. I talked about this earlier, and it's still the same thing. Who is the quarterback for Atlanta?
Kirk Cousins.
Atlanta is it's what's his name? It's
Cousins.
Because I'm getting like Pitts and I'm getting like London, but I'm not getting like any stacks. I
think that makes sense.
I'm getting the running back obviously too. But I'm not getting any of these guys together. It's a little I don't say shocking, but it's surprising to me.
I just think there's so many players with so much higher upside than Cousins. I could even play 2 of those guys without him and feel good with a skinny quarterback stack with like Richardson or the McLaurin and Daniels, because I just don't think the upside is nearly high enough, especially against a pretty good defense in Pittsburgh. That's where I'm at. But I do think both Pitts and London stand out, but I don't think that, we expect Atlanta to throw the ball more. We expect Bijan to be involved. Everybody in Atlanta is probably being projected a little bit more than I like. So I guess it makes some sense to why not play a low-owned Cousins with it here and there. But for me, I just like the other cheap quarterbacks a little too much. Justin Fields is 5K. I don't know what else to. We're never going to see that again if he plays. You know what I mean? It's just never going to happen. All right, we're going to move over to defenses. We're running out a little bit of time. We didn't talk quarterbacks, but we sort of covered it with the stacks thing. I'm just going to look at my exposure so I know where I'm at. But again, I do think that I didn't put as much weight on defenses. Ended up with a lot of the Commanders, Chargers, Bills. I hand built a number of, I like New England. Just speculating on maybe a slow start for Cincinnati, and the fact that New England actually has a great defense. They're just going to have a terrible offense. And if you can afford them, which is much easier to do on FanDuel. So I ended up with a lot more of the other side. On the Bengals, I have a ton on FanDuel. What do you got defense-wise, Rody?
I like the Commanders, or not the Commanders, Patriots as well. I actually find a little bit of money where I paid up to the Bears and the Bucks a little bit. I know you're on that game, but I'm stacking. I pick all. I'm very spread out at defense. Mm-hmm. I like lower owned ones. I've even got Texans and the Colts even a little bit. So I spread out myself really well. I got some Panthers at 2,400 even. Some of the lower owned ones cheaper. The Broncos, I do have Seahawks stacks, but I also like the Broncos on the defense at 2,500, just cheap. I definitely mix around a lot of them. I got the Bills at 3K even a little bit, and obviously I have some Arizona stacks. So I got the Buccaneers at 3,500 as well. So I'm very spread out, but those are some of the main ones that I really like. Some of the cheaper ones, and then some of the couple of mid higher up ones.
Yep.
So my normal speech about defenses goes as follows. It's the most variant position in the DFS space. So regardless of what projections do for you, I tend to really if I'm not going to aggressively say I want less than 20% of any defense, I just kind of hope that that's where I get. And to the point of how varying it is, you guys, I rattled off 17 different defenses, and you didn't even have the one that's I have the highest owned.
I only named 4.
What's that?
I only named 4.
I know.
Yeah, I only named like 5.
You named like everybody. You guys
did name a bunch of them.
I'm just going to say who you guys named. You guys talked at one point about the Colts, the Bills, the Bears, the Browns, the Panthers, the Chargers, the Commanders, the Bucks, the Patriots.
You're right. We probably together got them all. Yeah.
Right. The Bengals. Who else? The Broncos. You know what I mean? That's literally like 11, 13 right there. And you also you didn't mention the Cardinals. So my highest owned at 15% is the Seahawks. You know what I mean? So it's
Bo Nix. Yeah.
So I mean, but it's just totally like random, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that I'm just getting Seattle, and I'm not even going to look, but probably in my Kenneth Walker stacks, Kenneth Walker lineups. That's probably the way that's going to play. And I'm just going to for the kicks. Let me see what percent I have of Kenneth Walker. See if it's almost exactly the same. No, I actually have 22% Kenneth Walker. So a little more. So I do have some Kenneth Walker without Seattle, but I'm pretty sure that that's part of what's getting me like the Seattle defense.
Yep. All right. So I think that makes some sense, but like I also think the defense makes just plenty of sense on its own for Seattle just because of the situation. But I do feel like I'm spread out defense today, so it will be a day where I would name more because it's just there's just a lot of different guys I'm getting exposure to. But I really like. I wanted to again, we'll sort of close out our final. My sort of. I'll do my final thoughts.
No, it's what we got to do. We got to come up with the play that no one's heard of. That's gonna win like all the money, but you have to have at least 5% of them for it to count. Let me just say.
I'll take. I mean, look, it's not like no one's heard of them, and I don't know why. Okay, so I guess the ownership's come up, but I was gonna say Jaden Daniels I guess I'll finish that with that in a second. But I do want to just point out a couple of things. First of all, I love the over in this Washington Tampa Bay game. And I really I think there's a lot of teams that are underdogs, including Washington, that I like to potentially win today. I like Arizona and Buffalo. I think Buffalo is a much bigger question mark for me than it is for a lot of people this year. Really don't trust the receivers quite yet, and I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out. I like Jacksonville a little bit in Miami. I think that the game, and I like the other one was a game take. It was who's the 4.5. Arizona's a little, a bigger stretch. Oh, I like Pittsburgh in Atlanta. I also, I'm come on. I want to say that sort of my strong take is it's going to be one of Daniels, Richardson, or Justin Fields. It's going to win the million and all that stuff. Those are not necessarily, I know I'm sort of grouping them together. Maybe it's not the hottest take, but I do just want to point out that I think Justin Fields is being criminally underowned. And probably by the time we're done with the show and everybody else is done with their shows, when the Russell Wilson was officially inactive, I feel like people are going to be on more of it. And if they aren't, I'm just going to be way overweight the field on that whole situation. But I want to remind everybody just how much, look, Sam Howell threw for 4,000 yards last year, 39 something for Washington. The Bucs are the easiest team to throw on in the NFL for the last couple of seasons. And on the flip side, Washington can't defend anybody. And that game just feels like it's being overlooked too much. Now, look, there's a lot of games, but that's the one that I feel like you have the best chance. Also, it's an afternoon game, which will allow me different pivots. Maybe I'll end up with more Seattle, maybe some more Charger stuff for lineups that aren't doing. I don't know. We'll see what Saberson gives me. But that's just sort of what I thought.
Here's going to be my question, I guess, to you, Rody, then because I have my own answers. Give me one or two guys that are going to double their projection, like win somebody and be less than 5%.
Double.
So I'll start. I got two. Okay. And they're totally different. They're totally different plays. Like one, I'm going to go with Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Love that.
To continue his breakout. Okay. And have a huge game. And for all the cheese. And then this is like totally the opposite play. Talked about guys that could argue they're the best player in the league. This guy maybe not so much anymore, but not too far removed from it. I just noticed he's 4.5% projected ownership with a 15-point projection, just like God knows how. But Devontae Adams at 4.5%, maybe has a good season left, and why not on a slate where so many other like high price guys are better than him, sort of projected.
Mhm.
How about he's good for 30 at 4.5%? So I will say Jackson Smith-Njigba as continuing the breakout year and the opposite play of Devontae Adams.
I like that, Sheets. I think that makes a lot of sense.
It makes no sense, but that's
No, I totally disagree with you. I think it makes perfect sense. I actually think there's a good argument for Adams. He's totally being forgotten about, and again, another guy who has the same or close to the same ceiling, not quite the same ceiling maybe as the other guys, but pretty damn close. And I've got a couple for you. I got Tank Dell would be my guy to double his projection.
Like
and
it,
he's under
like
5%. And the other one that, I feel if questioning of, what about DJ Moore to double hit against a Tennessee team that has trouble stopping the pass? And what if DJ Moore just asserts himself clearly as Caleb's number one guy? I know he's close with the Dunze and all that, but maybe DJ Moore would be another good one for the lottery. Those are my guys.
Yeah, those are pretty good. You stole my Dell there.
Sorry,
I'm on the 4.4% or 5% owned Land McConkey, so that's probably going to be my guy today.
Let's do it.
I have to debate. I was going to do a Chargers stack, and I have two $4,000 lineups today. I'm putting in. One's going to be Houston. I haven't figured out my other one yet. So I like Dell and Nico in that, and then I'm going to do Land McConkey. Might be the other guy. Does I do a Herbert with your Devontae Adams run back in that for all the money? I don't know, but those are pretty good picks. Maybe I go with Brock Bowers though. I don't know. I liked him too at 4,500. Low owned tight end, not popping in projections. High upside potential. Tight end's a weak spot today. He's 4.4% owned too. So Bowers and McConkey in that Chargers Raiders game.
All right, I love that. All right, we covered a lot. Obviously, it's always a little hectic the first day. We'll have things a little fine-tuned, a little bit over time. But I like that we talked process at the beginning, and I think we should allocate at least the first 10 minutes, if not more, to each show to talking about process for these slates. I think that's a really good idea, and that's what we want to try and do more as a site in general. Again, I want to remind people, Sheets has a bunch of process videos. We're actually we're in the process of trying to get them all labeled and categorized and put on the page, but Sheets is always making new ones as well. Sheets, any final takes before we end up getting out of here?
No, should be good.
All right, I'll throw one final take, and that's going to be that the Super Bowl is still going to be Baltimore, which is I don't know how with that offensive line, but Baltimore and the Rams are what I'm sticking with. And Rody, final takes for the season or today?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Are you guys on your stack exposure sheets for your Saberson build? Are you adjusting that QB +2 or QB +1? I'm getting pretty high on both of those. Are you bringing those down any? Or
the only thing, no, I'm not making any changes with that except I'm going to X out the QB. I'm going to get a QB4. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to get a QB0. I'm not going to use that. Everything else.
Yeah, none of those. Yeah, the Saberson guys X. I got 0 of those anyway, so I just kind of zeroed those out. But I'm getting a lot of QB +2 with no run back today. Like 40-some% in my lineup. So
yeah, that was a little too much for me. So I did lower that actually specifically.
Yeah, because I'm getting a heavy amount of that, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I might have
lowered it myself, but I'm not going to say that anybody else should or could.
Yeah, that was my only.
Sorry, go ahead, Roddy.
No, that was my only question about what we're doing that process right there for that.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to get out of here soon, but I'm going to let Brody take us out in just a minute. We really would love to, guys, check out our packages. I always feel uncomfortable to say out loud, but we've got some great deals out there. Promo code is written at the bottom of the screen, so you guys can check that stuff out. And reminder, Sheets is going to be gone Tuesday for a while, so we're not going to.
But I mean, I might pop in. I mean, it's just I have to see how my timing works.
Yeah, great. And also a reminder that I will be live at 3 Eastern trying to do the late swap thing. And hopefully at some point, hopefully if Sheets can join me. If not, I'll handle it with you guys and it'll be a good time. So with that said, Rody, take us out of here.